Most people nowadays get into working out to look good. Usually some, bodybuilding slash fitness model type of training. And this is normally because this is a person probably who sits at home playing a lot of video games, eating a lot of junk food. A lot of people nowadays are really out of shape. Oftentimes these are also, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. They feel insecure. They aren't, developed yet as men, which is completely normal, but still they feel kind of small and unattractive in like the grand scheme of things, because obviously they see jacked people on Instagram, on YouTube, on whatever social media they use every single day. And that makes them even more insecure. And they want to get girls, they want to be popular, they want to be cool. So they might get into working out, thinking, dude, I need to get jacked. They want abs, usually at the beginning, that the six pack abs. And then a big chest, shoulders, big arms, etc. And then once they are fully initiated into the cult of working out, maybe also a big back, and eventually the ever elusive horse legs. In the beginning, there's nothing wrong with this, really, because the average person is actually very unfit. This is starting to change amongst young people. Working out has become more mainstream, and it continues to do so. But generally speaking, the average person is not very fit compared to what a fit, athletic human looks like who doesn't work out like a ton. You don't have to work out 5 or 6 days a week to be athletic, to be generally fit. And being unfit is actually what makes these people unattractive. See, I've got a very positive view on this topic. I think most people, essentially all people, can look fairly good. I'd say essentially all people can look fairly good, and most people can actually look pretty good. Significantly above average. And the reason why is, folks nowadays with this whole, I'm not really into this internet thing, but I think this is the black pill, I believe. They talk about all of this, genetic predisposition to getting girls, blah, 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 weird stuff. To summarize, basically what they're saying is, I was born unattractive, and attractiveness is like the main factor that determines what your reality looks like as you go through life. Which in my opinion is a lot of nonsense, really. Because if you do a lot of things right, diet-wise, exercise-wise, just in terms of your lifestyle, you're gonna look fairly good. You're not gonna look like a supermodel, maybe, but you don't really have to, because a lot of people nowadays don't look very good. And more importantly, I think once you've passed the threshold of looking decent enough, a lot of other things become a lot more important. So I think the main problem is not that attractiveness based on genetics is like the big thing that's keeping you from, finding a partner or achieving success in life. The big thing is probably that completely apart from your genetics, you are just unattractive because you're not fit. And that is something that can easily be changed. Based on that, I think there's nothing wrong with starting to work out to want to look good. Because I would argue that the average person, or at least a very large part of the population, doesn't look good. And I don't mean subjectively, I mean generally speaking, as humans, they aren't very attractive. However, and this is the caveat, looking good is all good and well, but having looking good as the sole purpose of working out is kind of cringe. Because this is where we get into the intermediate, even the advanced range of people working out. And this is where it starts to get a little weird, if I'm being honest. This is one of the issues I have with science-based bodybuilding nowadays. And I put that in quotation marks because I'm not talking generally about using science to lift or to bodybuild even specifically. I'm talking about the trend of YouTubers, for instance, who say things like, this is the correct way based on science to work out your back. And what they usually mean by that is they will use the scientific knowledge we have available nowadays when it comes to working out, not to evaluate these back exercises on a plethora of different factors that play into athleticism. What they will do is they will value exercises based solely on how well they target one specific muscle in relation to general fatigue. So essentially what these guys are looking for is a bunch of exercises that are as easy as possible, as easy to do as possible, and don't build a range of muscles, don't train a range of muscles to work in unison, but to train one specific muscle that they want to get really big, like the lats, for instance, in our back example, with as little effort as possible. And to you as someone who is interested in bodybuilding right out the gate, that might sound like it makes sense. But, think about this for a second. This makes sense as a professional bodybuilder, maybe. Okay, you're already huge. That's right out the gate, maybe that's a big factor. But also more importantly, this is specifically what you want to do. You spend a ton of your time essentially trying to get specific muscles as big and as defined as possible. This is your job as well. You earn money doing this, ideally. If you're a professional bodybuilder, right, I'm assuming you're winning competitions, you're probably, getting sponsorships, etc. But a regular person working out like this, especially if you start working out like this, will just be weaker and less capable on average because they are training specific muscles in a isolated kind of movement to get big. They're not training a bunch of muscles in unison, working in unison. And, because they are targeting the muscle growth on these specific muscles, they are probably going to do less work on average as well. Right? If you want to grow your lats, but you're doing exercises that involve other muscles, that involve you stabilizing, etc., you're going to do more work, probably, because you still want your lats to grow. So either if you do the same work, your lats are going to grow less, or you have to work harder, which is going to make you stronger overall because all of those other muscles that are involved in the movement in something like a standing row, right, a bent over row, they are going to get worked more as well. But that's not a bad thing. Yes, that's a bad thing if your only focus is getting huge lats. But generally speaking, that's a very good thing. Because if you're working a bunch of other muscles, you're getting fitter as you're working your lats. I just said ass there, I believe. Right. Getting back to the point, compound movements are way more practical in terms of strength than something like, what's a good example here? For the lats, maybe something like a sitting machine row, where you even just use one side, okay, to isolate the lats, so you can work out one side to eliminate imbalances in your physique, as opposed to, well, yeah, a standing bent over row. Compound movements where you have to stand, where you have to stabilize, etc., movements where you're not sitting strapped into some machine, are way more practical in terms of strength, athleticism, because they build not just the mind-muscle connection to use the lats, they build the mind-muscle connection to use certain muscles together, which is the correct way of doing it if we're trying to apply this to real life. I hope you guys can follow me here. What I'm saying is, if you're working out a muscle in isolation, not only are you just building this muscle, which is not really a great thing for athleticism, but also, more importantly, you aren't building a realistic mind-muscle connection. Like, if you work out your lats in isolation all the time, you're going to be a lot weaker at lifting things in real life, carrying things around, than someone who, trains to lift things and carry them around, right? Someone who does deadlifts and bent over rows. Because that person is also training stabilizers and all of those, all of those smaller muscles working in tandem with the lats on those movements. But not only are they growing those muscles, they are also training those muscles to work in tandem with the lats specifically. So it's not just about growing those smaller muscles, it's also about training them to work together with these larger muscles. You want your body to know what it feels like to use a bunch of muscles together. So if you're not doing this, if you're not doing big compound movements, if you're not working with free weights, if you're not working standing up, all of this kind of stuff, actual functionality is traded in for a less tough workout that only targets a few very specific muscles. Obviously, it'll probably also target some of the smaller muscles, but very little. Like, the amount is negligible. Let me ask you this, and I'm gonna get a little harsh here. Does it feel manly working out mainly or even solely for the purpose of looking pretty? Does that feel manly? When I put it like this, when I ask you straight up, does it feel manly to work out to get people to ogle you? To get girls? Like, if you take a step back and actually think about this, does that feel cool? If you actually specifically talk about it as what it is, you are spending hours in the gym to look pretty. I mean, come on. To be clear, again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good. In fact, I think this desire stems from the fact that people want to be healthy. They want to be fit, because fit in the original sense of the word means, fit to do something, capable of doing something, in adequate shape to do something. And that means being healthy, that means being capable, right? Athletic, being able to do things, essentially. And healthy people generally look good. So in and of itself, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a little vanity either. Don't get me wrong. But if that is the only reason why you're working out, you aren't a man. You're a sexual plaything. Now you might be wondering, Ben, why are you saying this? You post pictures of your physique on Instagram. Damn, you got me. No, on a serious note, I do post pictures of my physique, and I'm proud of it. Absolutely. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to look good, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of vanity. Or I don't even think at that point it's vanity. I think, being proud of looking good because you're athletic, that's fine. But, and that's the important point, the key point here, I don't work out to look good. I just work out and end up looking good. There's a reason why I don't work out for size. And this might surprise you because I was on a bulk for the winter season, if you will. But even during that time, even for the workout plan I was doing then, I didn't go for the ideal workout plan based on the literature. Like, if you want to get science-based, I didn't focus on size as much as I could have. My workout plan was focused on mass also, yes, but more importantly, strength. And even then, not just strength on like deadlifts or something, general strength. I still had bodyweight exercises in there, okay? If I wanted to work out for mass, obviously I would go to the gym, because someone who is in the kind of shape I'm in would benefit if he wants to just build mass from working out on machines, which is something I don't do. Also, what might be quite interesting, despite the fact that I was working out for size and I only had 4 different exercises on my workouts, I still worked out forearms. So one of those 4 exercises on a pull day was still working out forearms, working out my grip strength, which might feel a little unnecessary to people working out in a kind of bodybuilding, maybe even power building, like bodybuilding, powerlifting, mixed kind of style. Because if I'm working out with free weights and with a lot of weight, why am I working out my forearms in addition to that if my focus is building size? Because grip strength is actually important in real life. And I will never not work out my forearms, because when it comes to carrying stuff, that's usually the limiting factor. Not my back, not my lats, not my traps, which, by the way, I work out a lot more than most people going for a balanced physique as well, because, well, traps are really important for carrying stuff. But yeah, usually the forearms are what gives out on people. Like their grip slips when they carry something very heavy. So I will always be working out forearms, even though it doesn't give me a lot of mass, and it might feel unnecessary to people because I'm doing a ton of forearm work just by working out with free weights. If I cared about my physique much, I would be bigger and or more ripped, without a shadow of a doubt. Recently I posted a picture on Instagram of my back, what it currently looks like, or a series of pictures where I, flexed my back. And I jokingly captioned it with, I think, yes, I'm still natural, or something like that. And the reason why that's funny to me is because any person that knows anything about lifting, about bodybuilding, about juicing, can see right at first glance that, sure, I'm natural. Or at least my physique is nothing out of the ordinary. I could obviously still be on steroids and just not do a lot of work or have shit genetics and look the way I do, but it's very unlikely that I'm on steroids the way I look. So yeah, if I cared about my physique that much, I would be bigger. I should be bigger, rather. I would not do agility workouts like parkour twice a week. I would instead lift more weights or spend that time resting and then do heavier workouts on the days that I do lift. My whole workout plan is not structured for maximum mass. And this is actually what I recommend to most people. I restrict my rest times. I don't just do a set and then wait for like a couple of minutes until I'm fairly rested again and then I keep going. No, I actually restrict my rest times. Even though this is not useful for hypertrophy, and yes, I am very educated on working out, so I know that restricting your rest times, it's not optimal for muscle growth because you're going to end up being worse on the next set. Obviously, you've had less rest, so the next set is going to be harder. But I want the next set to be harder. I want to condition my body to be able to work hard for long periods of time with very short breaks in between. I do exercises for strength endurance for that same reason. I will do lifts where I hold the lift for extended periods of time because I'm not working out to look pretty. I'm working out to be functional, to be able to carry heavy stuff, to climb, right? To all of that stuff. I work out for body weight strength for that exact reason, because I want to be good at parkour. Every single workout I do contains at least one bodyweight exercise, usually more. And again, I have a very big focus on grip. And depending on what kind of workout I've done, my forearms are actually very big compared to my upper arms. Not that I have small upper arms, but, my forearms, I don't know if you can see this on camera, comparatively, like in comparison to my upper arms, are very big because I just focus on my grip a lot because that's important in real life. I'm also not focused on perfectly pretty proportions, being perfectly aesthetic. The best example for this are my traps, my lats. My back is generally quite a bit more muscular than my front. And this has changed a little over the years. It was a lot more extreme when I was a teenager. Funnily enough, when I was a teenager, I was actually very unhappy about this. But I realized over the years that, yes, I could grow my chest more, right? I could get a bigger chest. But generally speaking, the reason why I hadn't had a huge chest compared to, say, my arms or my back, was that I worked out a lot more functionally than people who go to the gym and work out bodybuilding style. And that actually just led to me not having a big chest. Because if you really think about it, the chest is not very useful in real life. Don't misconstrue my words here. Of course, the chest is an important muscle, but having a huge, massive chest that can lift like insane weights, not that necessary for, the overwhelming majority of things you do with actual heavy weight. It's your back. It's your grip. That's what you're using when you're working with heavy things. Think of something like a bench press. How often do you actually do a movement like that in real life? And how often do you do a movement like that with heavy weight? Essentially never. And so I had actually naturally developed a physique where my back was huge compared to my chest, just because of the fact that I worked out fairly practically, and also, I just did a lot of sports, things like parkour, I liked climbing, etc. And that naturally lent itself to having a bigger back than a chest. And again, though I did kind of compensate for that, especially in my late teens, because I wanted to have a more perfect, a more aesthetic physique. And my chest is, of a decent size nowadays. I still have a bigger back. And I'm actually 100% fine with that. Because I don't really, I look good. And I don't really care about whether, by bodybuilding standards, my chest and back are perfectly proportioned. I work out in a way that makes me capable, that makes me athletic, that makes me functional. If you're into bodybuilding and you look at my physique, you can tell I don't work out to have the prettiest body in the room. And again, I mentioned this in the first video, especially from people who don't really work out a lot or who don't work out at all. I do get a lot of comments on my physique looking good. And of course, right, that's enjoyable. Sure. Of course, that, pads my ego a little bit. And also, I'm just proud of the fact that I've achieved a good looking physique. But I'm not delusional about the fact that people who actually work out bodybuilding style specifically, and some of these people have worked out for much shorter periods of time in their life than I have. I've been working out for years. A lot of them look a lot better than I do, without a shadow of a doubt. Or, at least they look more perfect. They look more pretty in the bodybuilding sense. I work out the way I do to be fit. Yes, to look good, sure. That's, I don't want to look like shit, obviously. But mainly to be strong, agile, have decent endurance, to be athletic. I'm not denying that having a nice physique is great. But if you're as fit as I am, that just comes naturally. Fit people, and I mean people who are fit in a balanced way, right? Athletic people. These are often people who play sports that require strength and endurance and, multiple things. Generally look good. There's a reason why football players, for instance, a lot of them have very good looking physiques. Another great example would be UFC fighters. Yes, there are some UFC fighters who are a little more chubby, but generally speaking, UFC fighters are in great shape. And I think the average person would agree that they look really good. Unless you have a specific job in the realm of sports where you have to be really, really big and strong. If you're a strong man, obviously that's what your training is going to be geared towards. If you're a professional high-level bodybuilder, that's what your training is going to be geared towards. If you're a marathon runner, that's what you're going to be doing. But unless that is the case, I think mostly people would benefit from a holistic approach to fitness. The way I work out. I am not a professional athlete. I'm athletic. I'm a very fit person. And I'm very capable in a lot of different disciplines of sports. Generally speaking, because I'm just in really good shape. But I'm not a professional. And so it doesn't make sense for me to specialize in some discipline because I don't gain any value from that. And it's just going to make me less capable in other areas of life. I don't work out to, earn money with it. I work out to be in shape, to be fit, to be athletic. And that means that it makes sense for me to be as fit as possible in as many different categories as possible, because since I'm working out for practicality, that means that being generally athletic is the most practical. It makes me capable of doing the most things in real life. You're still going to look good if you work out like this, no doubt about it. And, I'm going to unabashedly say this, I'm the living example. Okay, I work out to be athletic. I would say I look pretty good. But you're not spending hours in the gym just for the sake of being pretty. If you think of the ideal man, It's probably not some marathon runner with arms like sticks. And it's probably not some World of Warcraft orc who can't jump over a garden fence or climb a wall either. I'm not talking about just visuals here, okay? Some of you might love a crazy jacked look because that's been perpetuated in the media nowadays. Sure, okay, if you think that looks cool, fine. But let's talk about actual, all-around capability. And yes, looks go into that as well. Looks, but also all of the things this person is capable of. Let's be honest. Who's more impressive? A man who can run, jump, swim, climb, fight, and carry fairly heavy things? Or a man who can pick up really heavy things and put them down again, and also looks really good with good lighting? I'm obviously kind of exaggerating here, but you get what I'm saying, right? Which of these two is the cooler man? That doesn't mean there's not a lot of value in bodybuilding. And this is something I actually say to a lot of people who hate on bodybuilding, because there are these like yoga type of people. This is not me hating, by the way, but a lot of people who work out like this, who are very far from the classic gym goer, will, criticize bodybuilding style workouts, will hate on this type of thing. And I actually like to defend bodybuilding here a little bit, because some great things about bodybuilding are there's a lot of exercise variety. Through the way bodybuilding has developed, there is an incredibly large catalog of different exercises targeting different muscles, different muscle groups, targeting a lot of small muscles specifically, like intentionally as well. And yeah, I think just the incredible amount of variation of exercises you got with just a pair of dumbbells and a barbell. I've got an incredible array of exercises I can do with the equipment I got here at home. And a lot of that is thanks to bodybuilding, because in the pursuit of, original bodybuilding, trying to look aesthetic, trying to bring out muscles that maybe aren't worked as much if you're just working in a factory or on a farm, these guys developed exercises targeting specific muscles that, otherwise you maybe wouldn't have had. And you can then actually modify these exercises. So you can take these exercises targeting specific muscles and modify them for your own purposes. I do things like lateral raises, that target the side delt specifically, but then I will modify exercises like that and maybe do static holds with them for strength endurance, because I want strong shoulders that I can use to hold things over my head for a long period of time, or paint a ceiling, for instance. So you can just take the exercises bodybuilding has discovered for its own purposes and then modify them for athleticism, fitness. I do take issue with the fact that bodybuilding, maybe mixed with some powerlifting, is the default, though, when it comes to working out nowadays. I'd say when a young guy gets into working out, that's what he's going to do. Bodybuilding / maybe a little bit of powerlifting style working out. And I think that's just not ideal. Learning a martial art or parkour or something will make you capable of actually doing something. And that'll probably make you way more confident than bodybuilding as well. Which might surprise you, because you might think, well, isn't getting really big make me confident as well? Well, when your main or even your only focus is how pretty your physique looks, there's always going to be someone who looks better, who's bigger, who's more ripped, who's probably on steroids. So getting into the realm of working out for your physique working out bodybuilding style can actually make you less confident. A lot of people in the late beginner or intermediate kind of range feel very disheartened because they are so involved in working out that they feel like they could be way bigger. And they are still on the lower end of that. So their knowledge has kind of surpassed their physique. And now a lot of them actually feel really self-conscious about their bodies because there are these like space marines walking around at the gym who look crazy as hell. And then also these guys will not look like the people on Instagram who are probably on steroids, who in a lot of cases are photoshopping their pictures. They won't look like these Hollywood stars who eat broccoli and rice and gain 40 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks. But are totally natural, bro. It's just like they have access to the best trainers in the industry. You know, you feel me? Like people like The Rock or Chris Hemsworth, you know, like your favorite natty movie star. You're not going to look like that if you are natural and working out, have been working out for a couple of months, maybe 1 or 2 years. That's not what you're going to look like. So in a lot of cases, you're going to be very insecure, especially if you're like 17, 18, 19. Your body hasn't even finished growing, probably. And you're comparing yourself to grown-ass men. Like, bro, chill the fuck out. You're comparing yourself to an adult male who's been working out for like 10 years and is also on the special sauce. And you're looking at that guy as a 17-year-old. You think that's going to make you more confident? Hell no. You're a crazy good-looking 17-year-old. You've been working out your muscles. You've been doing physique work for 2 years. But you look at some like crazy juiced The Rock picture and you're like, I don't look like that. No, of course you don't. The guy's probably drinking testosterone shakes every morning. And also he's been working out for like 20 years or something. Anyways, I'm getting a little riled up here, but this is so crazy to me how, a lot of young guys will actually have their confidence destroyed, or, and this is apparently kind of a thing nowadays. I don't use stuff like TikTok, but I've heard about this. I've seen a couple of videos on it on YouTube. Or they will do something very stupid and they will get on PEDs. Taking performance-enhancing drugs, taking steroids to be more pretty when it's not even your job. You're not even getting paid for this. You're taking performance-enhancing drugs, risking your health, risking, things like a heart attack, risking the potency of your sperm to be more pretty. That is one of the goofiest things imaginable. And if you're a teenager, I can at least understand the kinds of insecurity mechanisms that cause you to do something like this. But if you're a grown-ass man and you are not competing in bodybuilding, at the very least, even then, I think this is a terrible trend. But at least in that case, this is somehow your job. But if it's not even your job, if you are juicing to be more pretty, that is so incredibly cringe. You're a grown-ass man. You are risking your health. You are risking dying on your family to get swole. Bro, what the hell are you doing? How old are you? 5? You can tell that this topic is something that just really pisses me off. Because I think it's such a terrible influence on people getting into working out. And I think it sucks because the general trend towards working out more again is great. a lot of millennials, the generation that, I kind of feel like I belong to, but actually don't belong to, are in really terrible shape. They're really skinny, or, kind of skinny fat. So I think the general trend towards working out more is great. And the general trend towards lifting weights and that being sort of a mainstream thing, also great. These people who say, oh, I work out a lot, and they just go running 3 times a week. Yeah, maybe your endurance is fine, but let's be honest here, you're not fit. So I think it kind of sucks that this comes with, these bizarre, like, bodybuilding trends, these people looking like video game characters, but not even in a good way. In the end, this is essentially a body dysmorphia gateway. You're working out to look pretty, but by doing so, put yourself in a social bubble, in a social space, in a mind space, where you are constantly confronted with these people who either look better than you, or at the very least are way more jacked than you, way bigger, way more veiny, way more disgustingly enhanced. And at the end of the day, you're not really working out for yourself because there's no real use in the way you work out. Sure, of course, bodybuilders are not weak by any means, but the kind of strength you build if your only focus is being huge and having perfect proportions is not as practical as, well, actually working out to have practical strength. A strongman, someone who does strongman style training, can hold like a really heavy Atlas stone, those types of things, can hold something really heavy for a really long time, for half an hour, for an hour in some cases. Something that's insanely heavy. That's cool. That's practical. That's useful in real life. If you help a friend move. It's not useful to be really big and get gassed quickly and being able to lift something heavy once and then put it down again. How is that useful? And you might say, well, at least I look good, so I'm going to get girls with it, right? First of all, you can get girls without working out this way. I don't work out like that. I still look good. Okay, so you don't need to work out like this to look good. Even then, you don't even have to necessarily be athletic to get girls. It's definitely going to be a huge boost. I recommend anyone who, feels insecure about this kind of stuff, anyone in general who's not in shape, go work out 100%. But making looking pretty the sole purpose of working out just to get girls is silly. Because at the end of the day, a lot of girls are attracted to men or guys who are capable of a multitude of things. And I think a lot of women are probably going to be a lot more attracted to someone who is generally in shape, but then also, who can fight or who is very athletic. Not just someone who looks big and is essentially capable of nothing. Now, this video is mainly directed towards men, as you can tell from what I just said. Men, young men, lads. But the same thing kind of goes for girls and women as well. If you're only working out to have a fat ass, instead of working out for fitness, a healthy body, a functional body, longevity, you're a hoe. And if that offends you, you probably know I'm talking to you. Again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good. Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. But that should not be the sole reason you work out. Seriously, people need to stop working out for the sole purpose of looking more screwable to others. I had to censor myself there. It's so goofy. it's so, I'm so embarrassed for humankind. This shit is so cringe. Is that your idea of a graceful human being? The ideal man? The ideal woman? Just two folks spending their entire day trying to look like people from the hub? Like, I'm actually, yeah, I'm getting secondhand embarrassment from this stuff. Stop being a tool. Stop being a sexual plaything. Start being an actual man. Learn real skills. Work out for an actual purpose to be capable, to be good at whatever you want or need to be good at. Stop working out to get swole, which, by the way, is a disgusting word that, at least in me, invokes vivid imagery of something, pumped full of blood and veiny. So this is the kind of word I would describe a hard penis with, which, admittedly, I will concede that modern bodybuilders do kind of look like the human version of a hard penis. But nevertheless, I think swole, the fact that that is like the commonplace term used to describe jacked people nowadays is kind of telling. Stop working out to look pretty, to be sexy, you goofy ass motherfucker. If you work hard, if you work out in a balanced way, if you're actually fit, you're going to look good anyways. Simply looking good because you're a purpose-driven, dedicated man is so much cooler than looking good because that's all you work for. That's just corny. Stop working out to please others. Start working out for yourself. A final note. Within reason, the human body, I think, does have a kind of artistic aspect to it. In that Da Vinci, Vitruvian Man type of way. As someone who is very interested in anatomy and the human body and musculature, I do think, there's something very fascinating about human physiques, without a doubt. And I think there's nothing wrong with incorporating some exercises into your workout that work to bring out certain muscles more. Or appreciating your physique again. That's completely fine. That's completely natural. But again, within reason. Within the realm of natural aesthetics, if you will. And I'm going to use some hard language here. The way modern bodybuilders look is not the way a human is supposed to look. I think one of the big reasons why, someone like Arnold had such a mass appeal is that, sure, the guy was on steroids, without a shadow of a doubt. And yes, he was very, very muscular. He was very big in his heyday. But he had a very big frame. He was tall. He had wide shoulders. So a lot of muscle actually didn't look weird on him because he's a big guy naturally. And I think that's something that's being disregarded a lot in bodybuilding nowadays, with people just focusing on getting incredibly massive and as ripped as possible while being massive, and completely ignoring their natural build. I think the reason someone like Arnold could put on a lot of muscle is because he was actually genetically kind of built for that type of look. But if you're significantly smaller than that in terms of your actual build, you're going to look really weird and, disproportionate in terms of what a natural human is supposed to look like. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with bodybuilding nowadays, is that there's this complete disconnect from what actually looks aesthetic, what actually looks visually pleasing to a human who is not completely insane and way too deep into the bodybuilding rabbit hole. So, yeah, I think, in the sense that there is a sort of natural allure and almost, this kind of grace, this kind of divinity to a very aesthetically pleasing body, I think it's fine to be interested in that, to find that fascinating. But working out for the sole purpose of looking in the mirror afterwards and doing weird poses, like, is corny as hell. Making like Squidward ass faces and then taking pictures for your Tinder profile. Like, come on, bro. That's like the male equivalent of a teenage girl checking in the mirror to see if her ass looks fat every 5 minutes. And if you think that's manly, get the hell out of here. All right, we've reached the finish line. If you're incredibly bored by now, you can switch off. This video was a little more loose in the way I recorded it, and I didn't make as much of an effort when it comes to the notes. I wanted to speak a little more freely on this topic because it's something that's very close to the heart for me personally. I think in the past I've been way too focused as a younger guy, as a teenager, on trying to look good, which at the end of the day is just a very goofy kind of goal if you're already fairly athletic. Instead, you should be working out to actually, be able to do practical things. And yeah, so I just wanted to speak about this just like that a little bit. And also I did a lot of script work, or not script work, but I worked on the notes in a very detailed manner on the last video. So I just wanted to talk about something that I can just chat about and have some fun with, kind of joke around with. And I felt like this was the perfect type of topic. If you enjoyed yourself, if you learned something, if you gained some value from this video, if you just found it funny, I don't know, I would very much appreciate if you go ahead and leave a like. And if you have any questions, if you want to leave an angry comment about me offending you by saying you're goofy as hell, go ahead, leave a comment down below. Also, if you have any suggestions for future videos, leave a comment as well. And if you want to continue onward with me on this journey of, uploading videos where, I talk about stuff I want to talk about and I feel like is important to talk about, give you some insight with the experience, the knowledge I've gained on these kinds of topics, go ahead and subscribe and activate the notification bell, I guess, if you do. That being said, really reconsider the way you work out. If what you're focusing on is getting as massive as possible and, getting really ripped, then maybe reconsider that. Because at the end of the day, I look good as hell and I work out to be athletic. I work out to be able to fight. I work out to be able to climb. I have decent endurance. I can run very fast. That's the kind of stuff that's, actually cool, that makes you an actual man, not looking in the mirror doing a sexy Squidward face and hitting some weird bodybuilding pose. All right, that's going to be it. See you in the next one, or maybe not. We'll see.